Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is Jectives Typography News number 48. Today is April 13th, 2026, and per usual, we have plenty of typography news to get into. Wakamai Fondue finally got out of beta and updated, upgraded and updated and evolved. We're going to get into that. Affinity published a playlist of essentials. We're going to look at that briefly, and I will note why I think that that's important. We've got an upcoming event from Canva at the end of this month. Two scholarships, one from Type Directors Club and one from Blaze Type, with deadlines looming. And then we're going to get into some new releases. Got two new releases for you today. One from Blaze Type, one from Martin Majoor. And then I'll give you a quick preview of some deep dives we're going to get into in the coming episodes, the next two episodes, working ahead. And then we're going to do three deep dives on those Dalton Maag cookie-inspired script typefaces that we looked at in the last episode. So before I get into this, I just want to say you might note that there is a little bit less content in this episode, and I think we're going to have a little bit less content in the upcoming episodes as well. Not for lack of typography news or effort, but because I'm not necessarily happy with the quality of the last few episodes. I felt myself like stumbling over my words a lot, and I think that mainly comes down to being underprepared. Not necessarily unprepared, because I do lots of research. I'm paying attention to everything, but just really understanding the stories or understanding the terms and what I want to say. I feel like the only way to get up to the quality that I want this broadcast news to be at is to lower the lower the quantity so that I can raise the quality. Even right now, I'm stumbling over my words. But at the end of the day, I just want to reiterate, I am a typography enthusiast. I am not an expert. I think someday I will achieve that status, but you will never hear me claim to be an expert. I will wait until the day that somebody bestows that upon me. Let's get into this, because if you are familiar with the channel, you know that I use this website every single day. This website right here is Wakamai Fondue. This is by Pixel Ombrocht, as you can see right there at the bottom. Rule Nieskins. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, Rule. We have plans to talk and do a deeper dive into Wakamai Fondue. You've watched me use this for over a year now. And every time I want to get information about a font, this is where I go and drop it in. He recently upgraded and updated. I do have an article. Let me pull that up. I thought I had all my tabs up, but I don't quite. Let me show you what Wakamai Fondue is. I've showed you guys this a bunch of times. You just drop a font on here, and it will give you, we're looking at Magic Wanda here from Martha Sue Corsi. This is a future font, so you can see it doesn't have a huge glyph count and a huge feature count or anything like that, but a great typeface nonetheless. But you can see the characters, the glyph count. So when I'm reading off to you guys, the glyph count, the axes, 4 instances, that means those are 4 different instances on the variable font. So that's going to be like light, medium, bold, heavy, something like that. 17 layout features. That's where I see the open type features. And that's the great thing. You can see all of the metadata right here. That's how we saw that Zellotype created the typeface for Type of Feeling recently. And that's how we see today. We're going to see, in the next episode, we're going to see a typeface from Blaze Type, but it's it's in collaboration with a smaller foundry, Big Type. Anyway, so you can scroll down, you can see all the open type features there. You can test them out, you can turn them on and off. I might have picked not a great font to do this with because this is a display font. It's also in beta, but we can see some things on here. Let's see if there's you can edit this too. So if we wanted to see like specifically an SV and a W, because I can read it right here, that this is something we can change these right here. Boom, boom, boom. The V and W are slight changes. Anyway, so you can check out all the things that you would typically be able to do in a design software, but it's just front and center right here. Here's the variable axis. You can even play with this. And I'm not dropping in a web font. So you'll be able to do this in a browser without actually having a web font. I just dropped in, you can drop in an OTF, TTF. I think you can even drop a WOFF into this. But yeah, so It's got a lot of upgrades, a lot of updates. I'll hit you with gosh, I'll hit you with the bullet points right here. But look forward in the future, probably in the next month or two, I will be doing a full conversation for you guys, and we'll get into everything. But right here on the article, you can see that it's got a new engine. They switched from FontKit to libfont. Better reports, better testing, and modern CSS generation. That's one of the things on here that I have not put to use, but I see on here all the time, and I've had some of you guys ask about. With the features right here, you can turn them on and off right up here, and then it's gonna set them for you, and you can just copy. There's even a little copy to clipboard right there. Nice little thumbs up. Boom, boom. It'll tell you what the features do. It shows you the CSS. You can copy and then go paste it right into your CSS. So that is upcoming, but I just wanted to put that on your radar. It's probably not going to look too different from what I've been using, because I've been using the beta basically the entirety of Typography News. As long as I can remember, I've been using the beta. I don't even know what I used to do before I used Wakamai Fondue. I probably just relied on foundries, and if they didn't give me the information, I just didn't report it. Okay, second story here. I'm gonna get a drink of water. Second story won't apply to all of you, but it will apply to some of you. And anyone who's ever thought about switching to Affinity, it's free now. It's been free since last October. The only thing that you would need to pay for is if you want AI features. I tested them out, never felt the need to use them. But the one thing that I think really holds Affinity back is the fact that Adobe is just in the education system. I learned Adobe when I was in design school. I know anybody that is anybody, like if you ask for a recommendation on Reddit about what software to use, they're going to tell you professionals use Adobe. Professionals use Adobe because that's what, it's the chicken or the egg. They use Adobe because professionals use Adobe, so they use Adobe, blah, 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 blah. It's just built in the ecosystem now. And that starts when you're in school. Affinity by Canva, so Affinity version 3 and beyond, we're on 3.1 right now, is free to schools, and they built out this license and stuff. And Canva is actually really good with school stuff for education and things like that. Not sponsored, not promoted, anything. I'm just giving you facts here. But the one thing that holds them back is that education. And I don't think that this replaces a classroom. Believe me, this does not replace a classroom. But having Affinity put out official tutorials and official sort of like low level, these are the essentials, but I'm hopeful that this will expand into deeper and deeper levels, so people can get something closer to like a classroom structured environment rather than just a random YouTuber, you know, who didn't learn Affinity in school, because no one does, giving, you know, a kind of lesson about how to do a cool effect that matches an effect in Photoshop. Like, the biggest thing about education is you don't know what you don't know, so you go to learn the things that you don't know. When you're just searching up tutorials on YouTube, you can learn things you want to know, but you're never going to learn those things you don't know that you don't know. So I think that's what this solves right here. I think this solves that problem in a small way. So I'm not going to linger on this for any longer. We're actually going to move into a related topic here. But I do think that this is a good sign for Affinity. And even if you never ever use Affinity, it's good for the ecosystem. It's good for the design. It's good for designers to have competition and to have choices. So I would really encourage you not to completely dismiss alternatives and competitors, because that's going to make even your favorite software better. Speaking of which, Canva Create is coming up at the end of this week. It's coming up on Thursday. I'll report on this on Friday, so if you have no interest in watching this, don't worry, man. I'll do it for you. This is coming up on Thursday. The in-person tickets are sold out. It's going to be in Hollywood, but you can sign up and do this online. And we watched one in October when Affinity was dropped. You can see speakers on here. W. Millman, very nice. You can see some of the speakers on here. I'm excited for this, not necessarily because I use Canva. I don't. I'd be lying if I said that I did, but I do use Affinity. I'm excited to see if they have anything new regarding Affinity. Likewise, they recently acquired Cavalry. So Cavalry is an alternative to After Effects. And it's very, very technical, very good. I'm guessing that's what this coding section over here is. We can't get to it, but I would bet anything that this little coding part on the right here below my face is related to Cavalry and the animation type software. Motion graphics, I guess, would probably be a better term. So I'll be reporting on that on Friday, but if you want to watch it live, it's going to take place on April 16th. Free to sign up. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be on YouTube. I don't know that you even actually need to sign up. Just check out their channel on the 16th. We've got two scholarships here. The deadline for the Type Directors Club scholarship is on Friday. Anybody who wants to look this up, wants to get a scholarship, there are 5 awards of 1,000 and 4 awards of 400. Yeah, they'll be announced this spring, so they'll be announced soon. So if you're interested in that, go look that up. Link is in the description. And then similarly, Blaze Type has the Ignition Award, and this is open to students all around the world. There's no, let's go ahead and zoom in on this. There's going to be 5 winners, very similar. $1,000 cash grant, unrestricted, spend it on tools, time, design, whatever moves your practice forward. That's their quote. 6-month mentorship. So they are going to be doing direct tutoring with a senior designer. See if I can get zoomed in on this a little more. There we go. 6-month direct tutoring with a senior type designer on the Blaze Type team from September through February. That's much better. If I could choose between $1,000 or 1,000 euros, if I was a student, I was choosing between 1,000 euros and 6-month mentorship with a professional type designer at a respected foundry, I would take the mentorship. But great to have the cash and the mentorship, and you have an opportunity to distribute your typeface through Blaze Type. But as you can see, there's a little thing right here that says not mandatory, so you don't have to. There's a bunch of little details and stuff down here at the bottom, how to submit, who can apply. It's very open for who can apply. You just have to be currently enrolled in a design or type design program, but you don't have to have you don't have to have a commercial release or anything like that. And then they have some rules and good to know stuff on the right here. So applying doesn't transfer any rights to Blaze Type. And then, like I said, the distribution via Blaze Type is not mandatory, even if you get the scholarship. So I'm not sure the deadline on this one. This one I think has a little bit further to go on this. Open call begins April 10th, so this one's brand new. Deadline is July 31st, so not a looming deadline on this one. TDC scholarship, the Type Directors Club, you need to get your entry in by April 17th. That's this Friday. The Ignition Award literally just opened, but I wouldn't wait if you're wanting to apply to this one. That one doesn't end until July. Deadline is July 31st on that one. Okay, let's get into some new releases. Gonna get a drink of water, gonna take my face off the screen, and we will get into a typeface from Blaze Type. So one thing that I want to try to do with these new releases is try to be as objective as possible. So you may hear me be a little less enthusiastic about these, but I would not be reporting on typefaces if I didn't think they were worth your time. I will leave my big subjective claims and comments for my reviews. So Yowza by Blaze Type is a new release. I saw that this was released, that MyFonts has this listed as releasing on March 11th, but they just started posting about it on their Instagram like 6 days ago with this one. So I'm not sure if they like stealthily posted this onto MyFonts, or if MyFonts got the date wrong by a month, or if everything's right and they just didn't do any promotion for it. But you can see it right here. I'm going to scroll through this and give you some details. Let me get my notes up over here. I apologize. I'm going to scroll through this, give you some details. You can see 7 families right there. This is Blaze Type by, I'm going to try to say your name, Karol Mularczyk. I will get it right when we do the deep dive. But there are 84 total styles on this, 84 styles. It is variable. 769 glyphs is the minimum. I do have a review license for this. I've already checked it out a little bit. 43 open type features. It's available to purchase from the Foundry. There is a trial, but it's going to be limited, limited characters and stuff like that. But it does include variables, so you'll be able to test out those variable axes even with the trial. I'm going to save the pricing and stuff like that for the deep dives. But this one here is available for purchase from Blaze Type. We'll get to the pricing and license if we do the review. That is Yowza from Blaze Type. Let me go ahead and read you the description here while we look through this. I just wanted to let you get a vibe check. Now we'll read the official description here. Oh, I didn't pull it up. Let me copy this. Let me read it. I'm just going to pull this page over here. We'll sit on the Instagram and I'll read this to you real quick. Because I do think that the descriptions for this one, as well as the one from Martin coming up after this, I think they have good descriptions. They're not a waste of time. They're not super flowery. That is subjective. But this description will be their exact marketing, which I think is fair to read. Yowza was developed as a collection of geometric sans serifs, typefaces that served as a personal interpretation of Art Deco elegance. That does shine through there. The project originated from a specific design need. I was searching for a display font that could bridge the gap between rigid architectural construction and soft organic detailing. What began as a single prototype eventually matured into a comprehensive typographic system. While Yowza sprouted from a fascination with display typography, its expansion into text-focused versions became the project's most rewarding challenge. The final system resulted in 3 distinct families: display, standard, and text. The character set was meticulously packed with numerous stylistic alternatives, allowing for dramatic shifts in the font's personality. The depths of these combinations became so vast that the system began to take on a life of its own, offering a level of customization that exceeded my initial vision. That is Carl's description there. Hopefully I'm saying Carl's name kind of right. You could see some of the alternates and stuff right there. Like I said, I do have a review copy of this, so we will be doing a deep dive. Do not worry about that. Just going to go ahead and click through the rest of these so you can get a full view of it. There we go. Okay, I'm going to get another drink of water and we will get into this second typeface, new release. Our second new release today is coming from Martin Majoor. This is Comma Serif. Comma Serif is the right here. It says the one of 3 styles. This is the final of 3 styles to complete the comma super family, which includes base, sans, and serif. Base and sans, let me just note this right now, are both available on Adobe fonts right now. So it is entirely possible that comma serif will one day end up there. But that day is not today. I'm going to go ahead and let me pull up my notes again. I apologize. I'm a little, I don't know what's going on. But I'm going to go ahead and read you the details as we scroll through this. So the designer is Martin Majoor. The only place to buy this right now is on I Love Typography, but that's not a problem because right now there's a 75% off sale. You can probably see there's a $6 price tag on these fonts, down from $24. This sale ends on Friday. So this was the other looming deadline that I mentioned. During the launch week, this launched on the 10th. The sale ends on the 17th at midnight, or at 11:59 p.m. on Friday. 16 styles. It's a static typeface, 656 glyphs, 20 open type features on this one. Currently only available to be purchased from I Love Typography, but like I said, it is 75% off. You can see right here, $54 down from $216. You can get the complete comma bundle, and what that would include would be comma base, comma sans, and comma serif. All, what would that be? 16 times 3 would be 48. You can get 48 fonts for $360. I will leave my subjective opinions about that for for the deep dive on Friday. But let's go ahead and look at Instagram and I will give you the official description. Very nice. Let me go ahead and reload this because sometimes Instagram gets a little, there we go. It was a little pixelated. I'm not sure why that happens. So comma serif right there. This is Martin's official description. Comma serif is the final chapter of the comma trilogy, a superfamily of 3 closely connected typefaces, base, sans, and serif, each with its own voice, where base sets the personality, sans pairs expressive character with formal geometric stroke endings. I apologize. Formal geometric stroke endings. Comma serif, as we can see here, all three of them. That's why I'm paused here. Comma serif carries the warmth and angularity of comma base while adding strong serifs, classical proportions, and a true italic with calligraphic details. Let's see if we can get the italics up here. Its powerful uni-width design, that's important. Its powerful uni-width design is highly valued by designers who switch weights without disturbing the flow. Comma serif is a workhorse with character. So we can see the true italics right here. Like I said, I will be doing a deep dive on this. I've already received a review license from Martin on this. So I will be saving all of my thoughts, all of my opinions about this for then. But this was Comma Serif by Martin Majoor. And now I'm going to give you some previews. You've already gotten 2 of them here. So upcoming deep dives that we're going to be doing, you already saw one here, is Yowza from Blaze Type. I'll go ahead and show you. We've got Yowza Soft on this, and then we've got Yowza Mix that we'll be able to get into. Like I said, those are variable fonts. And then you also saw that we will be looking at Comma Serif. So Comma Serif is going to be on Friday, Typography News number 50. And then we'll be looking at Yowza on Wednesday, episode number 49, along with Uniphora. Uniphora was from Yep Type Foundry. We talked about this one last week as well. This is another one that is uni-width, like we just talked about. So we've got an actual width on here, but if you do the weight, you can see that it's uni-width. So if you're wondering what the uni-width is, that's what it is. No matter what you do, it just stays in the same width, and that is great, like Martin pointed out, for not disturbing your flow, because if you had a bunch of text and then you set it in a font that wasn't uni-width, it would push all of your text to to next lines and stuff like that. I'm sure that you have all done that before. So we are going to get into some deep dives now. I'm going to get a big drink of water and we will get into this. Let me close some tabs real quick, because we are nearing all that we need to have open here with these 3. I'm going to tile these again, but we're going to get into them a little deeper. Let's zoom in on these. So these are 3 typefaces that all released from Dalton Maag. I brought these up on the last episode, actually. And I noted that I wasn't a big fan of script typefaces, but these were so interesting, and I love the cookie theme that's going through this. So each one of these is named after a cookie that is from the nation that the designer was born in. So I'm assuming that each designer didn't independently come up with this. I think this was very strategically done by Dalton Maag. The one note that I'll point out right here at the very start here is that Linzer, I accidentally said Australian cookie last week. It is an Austrian cookie. So we've got a Brazilian cookie, we've got a Spanish cookie, and we've got an Austrian cookie. I'm showing you all 3 of these at once because we're going to be doing a bit of a back and forth circular thing here. We're going to be looking at all 3 of them kind of at the same time, but we will dig into each one. So don't worry, each one is going to get its own moment to shine, but I do think it's important to kind of look at these as a whole. Not that you would purchase all 3 of them at once, but you do have 3 different choices here of script typefaces, and they have a lot of similarities in terms of pricing and licensing. The glyph counts are pretty similar, but we're going to get into all of the differences. So being an American living in Brazil, I'm going to start out with the Brazilian cookie here, which I've actually never had. And I asked my wife, who is a native Brazilian, brasileira. She was born and raised here, and she has never heard or had this cookie before. So Tareco. These descriptions here, unlike the ones that we looked at today, these are pretty much just I don't want to say nonsense, but they're very abstract. A lively syncopated script, that's true, inspired by a beloved Brazilian biscuit. It's not really a biscuit though, it's a cookie. It's a biscuito, but it is a cookie. Defined by thick, confident strokes and precise details. that works. It moves with like a jazz-like rhythm to bring a loud, playful personality to packaging, posters, head designs, and expressive headlines. Okay, not quite as much nonsense as I remembered. But if we scroll through this, you'll get a few specimens, but it's not super deep, but you'll get an idea of what it can do. You can see that it does have capitals and the script there that both work independently. I am scrolling down like this though, because I want to point out these features. We're going to look at each of these features real quick, and then we'll get into Affinity and we can dig into these and see some of these features live as well as compare them to one another. So you can see that they've got these labeled here. Should I zoom in on this for anybody that might be watching? I don't know that we're actually making things any bigger. Let's just go back to the normal size. Oh, we were already zoomed in a little bit. Okay, we can get it like that big. And we can do not that. I always hit the coding instead of the developer thing instead of hitting full screen. Here we go. So they've got lively handwritten character. I think that's accurate. It does feel it has a lot of character. It's very characterful. Dynamic axis. So you can see the O right there, how the stress on that is going, bottom left, top right. That doesn't change. That's always there. But some of these aren't leaning as much as that O is. And so you do get a more dynamic syncopated rhythm here. So the syncopated rhythm, you can see how there's a little bit of bounce to this. And that is even further done by, is it on here? Oh, I don't know what I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I'll be able to show you that a little bit better when we get deeper into it. So contextual alternatives and ligatures. This is incredibly important when you're dealing with a script typeface. It's already going to kind of give you that, oh gosh, what is the valley thing? If somebody's watching and they know what this is, let me know real quick. Oh, uncanny valley, that's what it is. Anytime you're dealing with something that is imitating handwriting, and it's supposed to be very humanist, like a script typeface, you do get into that uncanny valley thing where you're kind of like, it's a script and it kind of reminds you of handwriting, but it's too perfect to really be handwriting. This one here is high contrast. This is the highest contrast out of all of them. It's also the heaviest out of all three of these. Thick, confident strokes. I would 100% agree with that. I think this is the most confident of the typefaces that we're going to be looking at today. Optimized for all caps typesetting. This is important. Last time I noted that this looks like the handwriting that could be done for sign painting. It doesn't quite get there as much as I thought that it would, and that's why it's important to test these things out on your own. By the way, Dalton Maag does have free full font trials, and as you can see here, one of the defining characteristics of this is going to be the flat brush terminals. Let's look at the other two details. The other two typefaces and their details. I'm going to scroll real quick through these ones. This is Coquito. This is the Spanish cookie inspired one. And I'm going to give you details with the names and the glyphs and stuff like that when we hop into Affinity. I just kind of want to break down all three of these and give you a vibe check before we really start getting into each one, because this going to be the circular thing. Since all three are from the same foundry, it's very easy to like bounce back and forth between these different ones. So you can see España right there. Spontaneous handwritten charm, joining scripts. So this is one thing that you'll note where we're going to bounce back and forth right now. You can see with this raining right here, it's a script typeface, but it's very disconnected. Joining, if you wanted them to be joining like this, Coquito is the most joined out of the three. Cursive slant, yes, it's very slanted. This feels the most like natural handwriting to me. This looks a lot like my mom's handwriting, to be honest. So dynamic baseline, this is what I was thinking of in the last one where it said syncopated, but you can see the baseline for the N and the I are pretty similar right there, but then the M jumps up a little bit. That's neat because that is much more like a natural handwriting script, as opposed to, a typical rational typeface that's going to sit on the baseline perfectly. And we even correct the optical illusions so they don't mess up the baseline. Fine, rapid strokes. This does feel very fast. Like the writing on this feels like it was done very, very quickly. You'll get it. You'll see that when we get into especially some of the longer text. Regular overlaps, another great feature for a handwritten font, a script font. I'll be able to show you these better, but you can probably see a little bit here. The D's don't perfectly match. So you can see this one goes a little bit further. The stem on this one doesn't quite hit the top of the bowl. The B right here, that bottom stroke doesn't connect to the bottom of the stem there. Same thing goes on. I'm going to show you all of the letters. Don't worry. Optimized for all caps type setting. I would say this one's a little less so than what we just saw from Tareco. This one here feels better to set in all caps. I'll show you. I've got things planned to show you. And then alternate glyphs. I think that this one has the most distinctive alternate glyphs. You can see the difference between the K, the S, and the S. Nearly every single character has an alternate glyph for it. So that's great to see. Once again, kind of break the Uncanny Valley vibe as much as you can. Linzer from Austria, the Austrian-inspired cookie. And there is a Linzer tort, which is kind of a cake, but there are also small cookies that are the Linzer. I don't remember how to say it, but I've got the word written out. But that's what this one's named after. Let's get down to these features right here. Here's where a little bit of silliness comes in here, because while I do think that this abstract adjective right here, creamy, handwritten appeal, does fit. Like, does this, out of the three typefaces, does this feel the most creamy? Yes, absolutely, it does. But is it actually like descriptive? I don't know. So creamy handwritten appeal. Yeah, okay. Joining scripts, nice to know. Like, this one does join much more than Tareco in the beginning. Smooth monoline curves. As you can see, this has very little contrast. It has teeny tiny bit in some of the joints and obviously at the stroke endings where it tapers off and stuff. But compared to the other two, this one is very low contrast and very monoline, as if you wrote it with a marker rather than like a brush or a broad nib pen or something like that. Organic rounded terminals. I do think the terminals on this, I think all the terminals on all three fonts are pretty organic. They all end as you would expect them to. Generous loops. This one's pretty fun. You can see the big loop on the R there. I think more so what the generous loops are is, because this is kind of a bold typeface, you need those bigger loops, and you can see it over here where they've got moo written. You need those big generous loops there to keep things from filling in at smaller sizes. Uppercase swashes. I love this. We looked at a bunch of swashes last week with Majoor, and I've got the same graphic for you, but written out here with Linzer. And we're gonna look at all of the swashes that Linzer has to offer, because it's a lot. Swashless capitals when it's in all caps. So these swashes right here, if you have the contextual alternates on, will automatically turn on for you, and it looks very nice. You can turn those off. You can get the simple capitals if you want to, but when it's in all caps, it automatically gives you the swashless capitals. It gives you the simple capitals, and I think that's great, because then you don't have to futz around with it. I said futz. And then, as we see right here, alternate glyphs. It's not super obvious right here. You might be able to notice that middle O is bouncing up above the baseline there. I'm going to show you all the alternates, so let's just go ahead and get into Affinity, because we have stared at these white pages for too long. Let's stare at some mint green ones. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be doing this pretty circular, but after I get through looking at all three of these at once, we're going to dive in deep. Let me go ahead and close out these previews that we were looking at. Okay, so you can see all three of them here, and when they're side by side, you can really see the difference. I've got these going from heaviest down to lightest. So Tareco from Brazil is definitely going to be the heaviest. Linzer from Austria is going to be the midweight. And then Coquito from Spain is the lightest. At first glance, Linzer and Coquito are a little bit like, I'll go ahead and copy my homework, just change a little bit. Like the uppercase, when you look at the uppercase alone, they feel very similar. But when you really get into it, like they're not at all, especially the lowercase. Like the lowercase gives it away immediately. But I could see the same person writing both uppercases, just like going with smoother curves down here on the W versus the sharper ones here. But yeah, I'm not sure if these types of capitals are a learned thing, like that people learn when they learn calligraphy. That could very well be, because they're not dissimilar, especially compared to Tareco. Tareco obviously is very bold, has very high contrast. You can see how small some of these joints get, how much it tapers off, whereas we get into Linzer and we're monoline, like we saw earlier, very low contrast. And each one of these is going to have a very different vibe and a very different use case. This one, like I said, Coquito, I feels like has the most natural actual script that you would like see someone write a letter or write a recipe or something like that. So those are all three of those. Let's go ahead and look at these in body copy because like I said, each one of these is going to have different strengths. We're looking at headlines and body copy here. I think you can tell immediately. And I do have all of these set. So these are not the default lettings. I can change, let me go ahead and change these to default lettings so you can see how they're intended to be used real quick. And then I'm gonna switch them back because I like to see them like this. So these are the default lettings, so they're not quite as spread out. It does look nicer, but in order to have some consistency between these, I've got them sitting on baseline grid so we can look at them, you know, in equal lights. So when we're looking at Tareco, this is clearly not made. This is a display typeface, clearly not made for body copy. I apologize. Just because it's so bold, and even with the contrast, like you're not gonna want this much text in it. I do think Linzer could get away with it. It's not quite as natural as Coquito. Coquito, I feel like really does feel like something you would see written on like ruled lined paper or a recipe or something like that. But the opposite kind of works for the headlines. I don't think the Coquito works quite as well at a headline size because it's so light. Each one of these is a single style. There's no different weights for this. You can't make Coquito heavier. You can't make Tareco lighter. You get what you get. So 3 styles, 3 typefaces. And then Linzer, I think kind of sits in the middle. It's not quite as bold at the headline, but it's not. But it's much more legible in the body copy. And I will be ranking these at the end. Obviously, these each have their own use case, as I said, because you know, some of these look better in headlines, some of these look better in like smaller sizes. So they will be entirely subjective. I left myself a little note here to change the swashes. I'll do that in just one second. But I think that not only should we look at the headlines and the body copy on this, we should look at this in like a list format, because I do think sometimes just shoot, I can't think of the name now. We talked a few weeks ago about a typeface where it was made for interfacing, where you're just reading like a couple of words at a time, where you're just kind of looking to see like some details, the time, information on a ticket or on your phone or something like that. So how do these look in interfacing? Because like I said, I keep bringing up the recipe thing. I feel like Coquito looks great at these small, like interfacing type sizes. Do I mean interfacing as in a UI? Would I replace everything in Affinity right with this typeface? No, but what I mean is more like a recipe or something handwritten. I feel like that looks great. It could look great on like a menu to add some details or something like that. It really feels the most like handwriting. And I know I'll keep repeating that, I apologize, but it just does. Whereas Tareco over here, like this would be not good at all for interfacing in my opinion. It's just too big, it's too bulky. It looks great at big sizes, not great at small sizes. And once again, we've got kind of, you know, the baby bear here in the middle. Not too hot, not too cold, just kind of fits almost anywhere. And it's very friendly. Obviously, this might be too friendly for some things, whereas this is a little more serious. Linzer is a little bit more friendly. You might note that it looks kind of bad right now. Why is that? It's because all these swashes are turned on by default. Let me go ahead and turn these off. So this is one feature that the other two don't have. Like I said, you can see the stats right here, I guess. I just pulled these from the interfacing stats that I throw on each of the typefaces when we look at the A to Z. So you'll see these numbers and stuff again, but I put them here just for the example, and these are the accurate ones for each one of these. All of the swashes are on here. So in this situation, you wouldn't want these swashes. Let's go ahead and turn these off to simple capitals. Boom. And look how much nicer that looks now. And now it's almost competitive. I feel like this is much better for interfacing just by turning off the swashes. So that's definitely, you know, if we're comparing the three and trying to choose which one to go with, having that option to turn that on and off is a great detail. And it's something that I'll definitely look for, even if I never purchase any of these. It's definitely something I would look for in future script typefaces, because just noticing the difference between that and having the open type feature, just click, 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 easily turn this on and off. It makes such a big difference for these specific use cases. There are times when you want like a big swashy Dalton Maag right there, But then there are times when you want to have a big list like this and you don't want all those swashes being distracting. So you just turn them off. Okay, let's get into Tareco. Hopefully this sort of like circular way that I'm going through these is okay with you guys. They're all coming from Dalton Maag. They are 3 different designers, and I'm going to give the designers their flowers, their shine, their shout outs here as we get into each one on a deep dive. But I just want to give you a vibe check on all 3 of them, kind of compare and contrast them. Let me get a drink of water and we'll get into this first one. So this is Tareco. We've been looking at it over and over. Let me go ahead and give you the details here. Dalton Maag, of course. Daverson Ribeiro, Brazilian. One style, extra bold, as we've seen. Static, 746 glyphs. This is something to note about all of these. They all have good glyph counts. These are deep typefaces, especially for a script display fonts. 15 open type features. You can purchase this from the Foundry. Full trials. Love that. This is not a review license. This is a full trial. Same one you can get on their website. $42 on desktop. Standard license. What I mean when I say standard license is it's going to have desktop, web, and app separately. So let's go ahead and do an A to Z on this. As we saw, there are going to be some contextual alternates and things that change on their own. So the characters that we're looking at right now, they are the defaults, but they're not the only ones. And so I will be showing you some of those alternates and stuff. And I have pre-prepared them to save ourselves some time. And so you don't have to watch me click through, but just understand that it's as easy as clicking those swash buttons earlier to turn these on and off. And you can see this is very cohesive. You can see those flat brush endings. It feels natural. Like Linzer was noted as having organic endings, but I think all of these feel very natural. It just depends on what tool you're using to make these natural strokes. But man, all 3 of these are really nice. It was tough to choose to put them in order for like best, my top ranked one from 1 to 3. Because the use case for each one of these is going to be so specific. It's really difficult to compare them, but if we're calling them out as $42 script typefaces based off of, named after cookies, coming out of Dalton Maag, that's what we're going to compare them from. So that's the A to Z. There's no weights or anything like that. This is going to have some ligatures and things. I'm not going to go through all the ligatures. I'm just going to show you this screen right here to let you know that it does have ligatures. I like the TH specifically, so let me go ahead and show you. That's actually the ligature right there, but if we do a TH like that versus a TH like this, it automatically does it for you. You can turn that off, of course, if you want to. But what I think is much more important and much cooler to look at, is all of the alternates that will come up automatically. So I did not have to do anything to make this happen. Let me demonstrate this for you. A. It automatically knows, like a good display typeface does, it automatically knows that you're typing 2 A's next to each other. Let's make them look different. This happens throughout the entire typeface. Typically, in my experience anyway, so this is subjective, but in my experience, you don't get this from a lot of script sign painting type typefaces. You'll get this from like real display, grungy typefaces and things like that. But these are subtle and they're different. And so you've just got 2 alternates on these. If you typed another G here, you would get the first one again. So you can see the first and third repeat. But even just having 2 here, they're so similar. Sometimes you don't even notice at first, but you can see the crossbar and this H doesn't quite connect. This I is a little bit smaller at the bottom. That butter knife just kind of tapers off just a little bit more. The J's, they just have slight differentiations in them. And I might be blind and some of these might be exactly the same, but for the most part, you can pick up on the subtle details. I forget what this little thing is called when it's in sign painting, but the sign painting community has a term for that, and it's something that a skilled sign painter can achieve. Let's go ahead and go through these backwards so we don't have to scan back and forth. But I'm going to go a little bit faster through these. You get the idea. They all have alternates. We probably don't even need to go through the rest of those. Let's go through the lowercase though, because the little lowercase is a little more distinctive. So you can see you can get the tail that connects it as you go, or you get the straight down stem. I'll go a little bit faster through these. You get in the FF ligature there where you've got that syncopated rhythm that they talked about where the Fs don't end at the same spot. They go a little bit higher or lower. Same with the G there. You know, you got the bottom, the bowl's a little bit different. Let me go through this real quick. There is another T on here. So if I just go back up to here, you can see that there are T's. There's the TT like this that crosses through both of them, which is nice. And you've also got the TT with the tails. I did not figure out how to do that manually, or I mean, there's no like box you can click. You just have to go into the glyphs and click it, as far as I know. I like the V's there. The V's and W's match pretty well. So let's get into some sign painting, because I mentioned sign painting repeatedly with this one and I had high hopes. And I think it does like an okay-ish job. I think if you already wanted a brush typeface font, you could get away with this and kind of pass it off. Put it in red, yellow, and blue with the white background. You know, you'll get much closer than I'm doing with my brand colors right now. But man, I see these sign painted signs every day. And I've definitely seen ones that are much worse than this. Here's where these contextual alternates really come into play, because you've got the O right here. Now we only have 2 of them, so you're going to get the repeat down here, but at least these 2 right here aren't going to be exactly the same. Let's say that this had 2 E's back to back. You could stick those 2 E's back to back and hang on to a little bit of that sign painting, you know, vibe without completely ruining it. So does this work in sign painting? Does this work at very large sizes? To an extent. I think that it works at large sizes. I don't know that it really pulls off the sign painting, but they didn't claim that it would. That was something that I thought it might be able to do. Can it pull off teeny tiny sizes? Can it pull off long bodies of text? No. You can read this. Absolutely, you can read this. This is the coconut entry from Wikipedia. I have no problem reading. The species evolved in the central Indo-Pacific. It was domesticated, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't have any problem reading this. But do I want to read a lot? Do I want to read this whole page? No, I don't. I think, once again, this is a display typeface that you could set in long bodies, a copy like this, for texture and texture alone. This is made for big sizes. Don't put it in small sizes. So, yeah, I like this one. I will get to my ranking at the end, but I do like that. That was Tareco from Daverson Ribeiro from Dalton Maag. So this is the Brazilian... the cookie named after a Brazilian, or the typeface named after a Brazilian cookie, and it's Tareco. Let's move on to the second one. Once again, I'm going to get a drink of water. We're going to go through a similar thing. Some of these do have little differences, but kind of going through the same format with each one of these. So the deep dive here on Coquito. Depending on the size, I think maybe you could turn this in a little bit, but when you're zoomed out, I think the spacing looks fine there. But the connected letters kind of make them feel like they're closer. Let me go ahead and give you some details on this. Once again, Dalton Maag, Pablo Bosch on this one. So this is the one that's named after the Spanish cookie, and each of these is their native country. So some of them might not live in their country anymore where they were born, but they are named after the country where they were from. So Pablo Bosch, Spanish. One style, just this regular weight. So Coquito is the lightest of the 3, and it is regular. Static, 872 glyphs. Once again, like I said, deep for script display typefaces. 18 open type features. You can purchase this from Dalton Maag. Full trials, like I said, and once again, $42 for the desktop license, standard license on this one. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And we're getting a much more angular typeface here, much sharper, it feels like it's written much faster. And while this doesn't have as much, it's not as monolinear as Linzer, which we're going to look at next. It doesn't have as much contrast as Tareco. I think most of the contrast in this is going to come in the joins and the tapers and things like that, but this one's pretty low contrast if we're just talking generally. But what you're typically going to get is the contrast through the stroke. So you're going to get one part of the stroke that's heavy goes up, tapers into a smaller part. Same thing with the T here. So you can see the top stem of the T is a little bit thicker than the base, and then the left is a little bit thicker than the right. That's where you're getting your contrast in here. But this one feels like a very fast script. If you wanted it to feel fast, you want you want the angle a little bit sharper. You want your font a little bit sharper. And that's what this one does. It feels very fast. It feels very fluid. It feels like natural handwriting. The point of cursive is to write fast. The point of sign painting, I guess sign painting's pretty fast too, but it's to look beautiful and to display information. But this feels much more like real handwriting to me. One funny thing about this one is that it actually has tabular figures on this. Boom. So you can see that one right there pops out to create, you're going to change your spacing and stuff, but the one pops out to make it tabular, to fit perfectly in lines. So I'm not sure what the use case for that would be, but if you were printing out a receipt, if you were doing, I don't know, I'm not sure. Like I said, this one could be used for recipes. So if you really wanted to have your numbers lined up in a recipe, 5 cups, 1 stick of butter, I don't know, then you could do that a little bit nicer with the tabular numbers. Once again, let's look at the double letters so we can see that these also have alternates. Linzer also has alternates on this. Wait, no, this isn't Linzer. I apologize. Coquito from Pablo Bosch also has alternates for each of the letters, and these will be contextual. So as you go through, the E's will not quite match. The F's will not quite match. Let's go ahead and go through these backwards. But you get the idea. They're not going to, oh, I kind of like this one, the GG there. I wonder, so if you wanted one G other than the other, there's not like a good way to change it. What you'd have to do is go into the alternates and change it that way. Or actually, you'd have to go into the glyphs and change it, like specifically pick the glyph that you wanted if you weren't getting it naturally through the OpenType features. Unless I'm wrong, someone correct me. I could totally be wrong on that. Lowercase, same thing. I don't think we necessarily need to go in all these. I'll just give you like a full screen here for a second while I grab a drink. I like the O is kind of interesting because you got the loop on one and not on the other. This is Coquito that we're looking at right now. And I deleted everything. Let's just undo that. Okay, so Coquito. Does Coquito work? So Coquitos, I put that there because I was thinking this would be a sign. Does this work as a sign painting? Absolutely not. This is going to look awful at large sizes. Would it look awful at large sizes with not being in all caps? Let me get out of this because I think I actually accidentally set this in all caps. Let me see this. Turn off all caps. Would this look awful if you were just writing Coquito really big like this? No, probably not. It would probably look okay, but we're looking for like the sign painted thing. I think Coquito like that, really big, just on its own, looks fine. But since we're comparing these to try and see the pros and cons and see the strengths and weaknesses of them, the Tareco is going to look the best at these sign painting, big sizes. Coquito is just way too thin. But where Coquito shines is in this long text. Again, are you going to want to read a book written in this? No, of course not. You're not going to want to read a book written in any script. But could you picture this in like a journal entry? Like, a fake journal entry, of course. But I could see this being used for a prop or something like that, writing out a journal entry in this, or a video game, or, anything where you wanted to not have to handwrite everything, but you want it to look good like it's handwritten. Rogue Wave, nice to see you. Great content as usual. Hope all is well. Hope all is well with you as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining along. You said having so much fun using HE. What is HE? Maybe you hit enter too soon. Oh, using Affinity for typography, logo type software. Love it. I love it too. I'm not sure if you saw at the top of the show, they released some tutorials, like some official Affinity Essentials on their YouTube channel. But hopping back into this. So this is the last part that we were looking at this. I guess I could have waited 2 seconds before I started talking to chat. But yeah, I do think that Coquito shines at these smaller sizes. This feels very natural to me. This feels very much like a person with excellent handwriting could have written this. And if you're talking about some kind of prop or for a movie, for a video game, for, I don't know, anything that you want to look handwritten and look very natural, I think Coquito nails that. Like I said, this looks like my mom's handwriting, so maybe I'm completely biased, and that's fine. This is a review. It's meant to be subjective. But let me go ahead and get back to Rogue Wave here. Yeah. So they, I'm not sure if you saw it, but they had, they updated. Yeah, you probably don't. You probably don't need it. But I'm gonna watch these just for fun. But yeah, Affinity published some official, like, getting started videos. I think it's going to be good for Affinity and getting new users and stuff like that. So I'm excited. New users means more features for us, more more support. So I'm excited about that. Last up here, we've got Linzer. This is the Austrian one. I'm going to get a drink of water and we'll get through this final one. I did write down how to say this designer's name. Let's see if I have it here. I did not write it down. Wait, no, I did. I looked it up, but I don't remember. I apologize. Francisca. I think that it's pronounced like Hoopman, but I might be wrong on that. Francisca from Dalton Maag, one style. This one only comes in bold. Once again, a static typeface. 970 glyphs. Again, I repeat myself for anyone using chapters. This is a deep script typeface. Dalton Maag put out some really deep typefaces for these scripts. 970 glyphs on a display font is amazing. 18 OpenType features. Purchase it from the Foundry. Full trials available. That's what this is. $42 on desktop and standard license. This is the one that's monolinear. This is the one that's going to have very little contrast. Let's get through this real quick, and then we'll look at some of the fun features. This one does feel natural to me as well. This one feels like someone who took their time, though. This doesn't feel fast like Coquito. This feels like someone took their time, wrote very nicely and neatly. Like when I used to write cursive in school, I just print all the time now, but when I used to write cursive in school, I like to take my time and write very, very perfect and neat. And that's why I stopped writing cursive, because it was supposed to be faster, and it just took me way, way longer. Even these numbers look really nice. The 2 with the little bit of a crossover there at the bottom, I like that. The big-headed 3 here, and then you've got a little bit of an overlap there on that flag on the 5. Yeah, I really like the numbers. Even the 7 with the little serif there. I'm not sure if it's called a serif when you're talking about a script, but we'll pretend. I'm really a fan of this one. I like all of them, but once again, we're getting the alternates here, so you can see where the A crashes through one stem, but not the other. Same with the B going through that top bowl. We'll go through these quickly. I don't want to not give Linzer the love that it deserves, because I do think that it's amazing, but we've gone through, this is the 3rd one now where we're kind of scrolling through these close-ups. And by now, if you don't trust that they each have individual, or if you don't trust that each of them have contextual alternates, I don't know what's going to convince you. Lowercase here is probably more important because there's not a lot of times you're going to be doing all the uppercase together. But some of the most important ones here, you can see the loops differentiating on the R's there. The S is really differentiating here. You've got the stroke going through the bottom versus not. The T's here, you could separate these or put them together. Nice ligature between those. Same with the L's, loop, loop. The J's here, you got the loop on one, flowing very smoothly into the second one. Excellent. What I'm most excited about, though, here are all of these swashes. If you were around for the Majoor review on Friday in episode 47, I had a very similar graphic here. All I did was swap out the font on this one. So this is Linzer by Dalton Maag, and look at all of these beautiful swashes. Let me go ahead and repeat what I said in the beginning, because when we were doing these in all caps, or when we were doing that list, the interfacing a list that we did, we turned off all of these swashes, and you can do the same thing here. if you don't want the swashes, it's as easy as clicking one button to turn them on and off. So I love that, and I love these swashes. I think not every single one of these, you look at the Q here, we're not going to get a swash on the Q, but almost all of these do have swashes, all of them that make sense to have swashes. And I don't know, I've fallen in love with swashes lately, I guess. Even as something as simple as the E here, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a swash. They're calling it one, but this is the simple capital versus the swash capital. It's really nice. The other thing you can do, this is excellent. I know you're not going to be able to see the features over here too well, but if you're familiar, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you can have the swashes turned on or off with this set right here. The default is to have the swashes on. You can turn simple capitals on right here, but you can still go in and just highlight one of them. And even if you have simple capitals turned on, you can turn this one to have the swashes turned on. So you could go through, if you don't like a single character on there, you could go through and just change those on their own. But for the sake of this, let's go ahead and turn them all on because I think they look incredible. Let's see how it looks at sign painting sizes. But once again, it's the baby bear. Not too hot, not too cold. But I don't think this one's perfectly in the middle. It's in the middle. I think the numbers look fine. But this Linzer AG, which is the cookie version of Linzer in Austria, as far as I understand, it just doesn't look great. If you could get a heavier weight of it, I think that it would match. But you really run into a problem here with the big brush on this one. The brush just looks so much bigger. Like imagine that you had a paintbrush in your hand. The contrast is just too much. You would want a heavier weight up here on top. But is it passable? If you got rid of this and set that in something else, I think this looks fine. But in terms of looking at these all in the same light, it works at large sizes. It doesn't work for this type of sign painting thing. I have seen worse signs in real life than this. I've walked by worse signs than this on a daily basis in Curitiba, but I would never set that like that. Does it work in long text? Well, let's just stay zoomed out for a second so we can look at it. Does this work in long text? I think it works, obviously, once again, just kind of in the middle. I think it works. It's much friendlier. It's much slower. So if you wanted a very slow reading experience, that's one thing to think about when you're picking the font. Does it read fast? Does it read slow? Does it read loud? Does it read quiet? That's going to be your X height up, bigger X height, smaller X height. But the angle and the speed that it's written with, the sharp script versus this very fluid, very smooth, very calm script, you're just going to get a different vibe out of it. You're going to get a different reading speed. So I think if you wanted something slower, this is okay. I think it's too bold for long bodies of text like this. Once again, it's script. You're not really going to do this. But if for some reason you had to, or somebody really wanted you to, it's readable. It's not, I'll say it's legible. It's not readable. You can read a few sentences of this. You're just not going to want to do it long term. So between the three, which are my favorites? I've got them stacked up right here. Linzer on top, Tareco in the middle, and Coquito at the bottom. Why? Linzer, I just think it's the all-arounder. It got me with those swashes for sure. I prefer the monoline. I like the monoline for the brushes better. It feels slow. It feels intentional. So that's my favorite one, even though it doesn't do quite as well at the sign painting, huge sizes, even though it doesn't do quite as well as Coquito at the super small sizes. It feels like it's the most versatile. Tareco would be my number 2. I like the big boldness of this one. I don't think there's many times I'm going to be setting script in small sizes in the first place. So even though this looks absolutely awful in small sizes, other than for texture, I think that it pulls off the big sizes really well, especially in all caps. And in lowercase as well. I mean, this looks fine like this. That looks great. I think that you could do some really great headline stuff with that. Coquito at the bottom here. I don't dislike this typeface at all. Just, when there's only 3, one of them's got to be at the bottom. Coquito obviously shines at being actual text, but where I think that it shines the most is the interfacing type stuff. Like if you were doing a list, I could 100% see this being used as a recipe. And these being cookies, I think that's the perfect setting for this. But each one of these is going to have a place that it shines. Each one of them is going to have a place where it falls a little bit short. When you're dealing with a script typeface, it's never going to be perfect for everything, just by nature of the beast. Script typefaces are very context specific, and hopefully I've given you good context for each one of these, what I think that they're useful for, and now hopefully you have a good idea of all the features and stuff. But like I said, you can download each and every one of these for free on Dalton Maag. You can get each one of these. You can get the full trials. Obviously, they're trials. You can't use them for anything commercial or personal or anything like that. But you can test them out to your heart's extent. You can see anything that I didn't show you. You can go and test it out and see how it works. But hopefully this episode felt a little bit higher quality. I know we were kind of zoned in on one foundry. I don't think that there will ever be another time that we do this. Next week, we're already talked about, we're going to be looking at Uniphora from Type Foundry, and we're going to be looking at Yowza from Blaze Type. We know on Friday, we're going to be looking at the heavy hitter Martin Majoor with the final entry into Comma Serif, into that Comma trilogy. I'm really excited for that. I would be remiss if I didn't once again reiterate there's 75% off right now on the Comma family, especially on Comma Serif. 75% off. You get it for like $54 instead of $216 until Friday. So if you're not sold now, watch the live stream on Friday and I will do a full deep dive on it because I do have it. I'm going to be running it through its paces. We'll compare it. We'll stick it with Comma Base and Comma Sans. If there's not like a really compelling other new release, I might only do my deep dive on Comma Serif so that we can really get into it. I think there's going to be a lot to look at. It's a workhorse, it's a serif typeface, and it's got two brethren to set it with. So I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for the rest of the week. But thank you for everybody who followed along during the live stream. Thank you for everyone watching the replay. I've been Curtis Simpson. This was Typography News number 48. I can't believe it. We're almost to 50. 48. I will be back on Wednesday. I will see you then. Bye.